Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I am Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis has released a new Apostolic Letter. It is entitled Totum Amoris Est, meaning everything pertains to love, and it is being published upon the 400th anniversary of the death of St. Francis de Sales, one of the great figures of the Counter-Reformation. In his new letter, Pope Francis recalls how the saint was able to assist people in seeking God in charity, joy and freedom during a period of significant change. The pontiff said the saint was an excellent interpreter of his day, who in a novel way had a thirst for God, was an amazing director of souls, and was able to aid others in helping them seek the Lord in their hearts and find him in charity. The Pope said that according to the saint, the experience of God is intrinsic to the human heart. The Diocese of Rome offered a special Mass for Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI at the Basilica of St. John Lateran on Friday. Vicar of Rome, Cardinal Angelo De Donatis, who celebrated the Mass, said, "In the coming days, let us accompany our dear Bishop Emeritus in his moment of suffering and trial." There has been an outpouring of prayers for the Pope Emeritus as his health is deteriorating. Both Christians and non-Christians have responded to Pope Francis's appeal for prayers for the German-born former pontiff. Cardinal Vincent Nichols, the Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Blaise Suppic, the Archbishop of Chicago, Major Archbishop Sviatoslav Shevchuk of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, and Chief Rabbi of the Jewish Community of Rome, Riccardo De Segni, all separately tweeted their support for the Pope Emeritus. They also urged everyone to pray for his well-being. Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, the head of the Italian Bishops' Conference, urged Italians to assemble around Pope Emeritus Benedict in prayer during this difficult period. Catholics in Ukraine also joined the spiritual chorus for the Pope Emeritus. Release International's most recent persecution trends study singles out Nigeria and China as nations of significant concern, where the persecution of Christians is expected to rise in 2023. The UK-based organisation released its annual report, which reviews the world's worst persecution hotspots. Nigeria is the main concern for the upcoming year. Chief Executive Officer of Release International Paul Robinson warns that this trend will continue in 2023. However, he says that those who use violence to try to stamp out Christianity have forgotten the lesson of history, saying, "It teaches us that persecution, terrible though it is, strengthens resolve. It emboldens and refines the Church." Meanwhile, the Pontifical Foundation Aid to the Church in Need issued a warning that jihadist violence has increased in the African continent since November. Islamic terrorism has extended to nations in northwest Africa like Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria itself. To express their support for the safety and release of their loved ones, a group of mothers, wives, sisters and daughters of Ukrainian prisoners of war presented Pope Francis with a traditional embroidered blanket. The group of women pleaded with the Pope to act as a mediator between prisoners and their captors to help protect and bring back their loved ones. This is to provide everything required, including items to keep warm and medication to the prisoners of war. One of the members of the delegation who met with Pope Francis after the Wednesday General Audience was named Victoria, who declared, "We are going to do everything we can to save soldiers who are currently hostages." A Catholic bishop and a priest who had been incarcerated in Eritrea since October the 15th have been released. According to a source, on December the 29th, Bishop Fikri Mariam August Salim and Father Mehereteab Stephanos, the parish priest of St. Michael's Parish of Sekeneti Eparchy, were freed. The source informed ACI Africa that clergymen are accused of highlighting human rights abuses in Eritrea in their sermons. BBC News reported that Bishop Salim was detained by security personnel at the Asmara International Airport after arriving from Europe. According to Agencia Fides, the information agency of the Pontifical Mission Societies, another Catholic priest was also incarcerated at the Adi Abeto prison alongside Bishop Salim on October the 18th. The source, however, did not state whether or not Franciscan friar Abbot Abraham was freed. 2 priests who were abducted last week in Nigeria have been freed. That is according to a statement made by the Pontifical Foundation Aid to the Church in Need. Father Mark Ojoto from the Diocese of Otukpo in Benue State and Father Sylvester Okwichukwu from the Diocese of Kafanchan in Kaduna State were freed from their captors. So announced the organisation in a message shared on social media on Tuesday. However, Father Christopher Ojide, who was abducted last week, is still being held captive. On December the 17th, he vanished from the Diocese of Umuahia while travelling to a gas station close to the parish of Santa Maria Assunta in the state of Abia. Nigeria is dealing with a wave of gang violence, with criminals carrying out random attacks, kidnappings for ransom, and in some cases murders. The Taliban government's actions in Afghanistan that target women and girls have been condemned by the United Nations Security Council. Within the past week, the Taliban have outlawed women's participation in higher education and employment by non-governmental organisations. The Security Council's 15 members expressed grave worry over the growing barriers to women's education. The most recent restrictions must be lifted, that is according to UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. In a statement, the Council urged full, equitable and meaningful participation of women and girls in Afghanistan. The Taliban were encouraged to reopen schools and promptly remove these policies and practices which represent a continuing deterioration of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, according to the UN statement. Guterres said that the latest restrictions were unjustifiable human rights violations. He said on Twitter that actions to exclude and silence women and girls continue to cause great misery and significant obstacles to the potential of the Afghan people. The Swedish government has made it clear that it will no longer provide so-called gender-affirming treatment to young people with gender dysphoria. Instead, Sweden's National Board of Health and Welfare has now further modified its treatment recommendations for such children. The board stopped administering cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers to juveniles under the age of 18 in May, stating that there was insufficient data to endorse such treatments. Now they are also cutting back on the provision of mastectomies to young women with gender dysphoria. Thomas Linden, who is the head of the department at the National Board of Health and Welfare, said that good psychosocial care is fundamental to the care of those with gender dysphoria. The abortion rate in Spain has gone up. The Spanish Ministry of Health announced on Tuesday that 90,189 abortions took place across the country in 2021. That's up 2.18% compared to the previous year. The pro-life group Red Madre, which helps expectant mothers in need, said the new statistics demonstrate the isolation Spanish women experience during a crisis pregnancy. They are now calling for a new law to support motherhood, with special attention given to pregnant women in difficulty. Iran must stop executing and persecuting protesters. That was the firm message from Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani on Wednesday, after summoning Iran's new ambassador to Rome. Mr. Tajani said death sentences against people who take part in demonstrations or women who refuse to wear headscarves were a grossly disproportionate and unacceptable form of punishment. Nationwide unrest erupted in Iran 3 months ago after the death and detention of 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian woman Mahsa Amini, who was arrested by the country's morality police, who enforce the Islamic Republic's mandatory dress code laws. A Christian couple in Australia has won damages after unlawfully being refused the chance to foster children due to their belief that homosexual acts are sinful. Byron and Kira Hordick from Perth applied to become short-term foster carers in 2017 through Wansley Family Services, a not-for-profit association contracted by the state government to assess foster care applications. During the application process, the Hordicks shared their views that according to the 7th commandment, "Thou shalt not commit adultery," sexual relations can only occur between a man and a woman who are married, and that homosexual acts are sinful. Subsequently, their application to foster was rejected. Now, a tribunal has found the Hordicks' belief is a genuine religious conviction protected by law, and has ordered that the couple receive $6,000 Australian in damages. Edson Arantes do Nascimento, better known as Pele, and according to many, the greatest player in football history, has passed away at the age of 82. Spanning a 21-year career, Pelé is credited with scoring a world record 1,281 goals in 1,363 games. That's including 77 goals in 92 international games for Brazil. Pelé was the only player to have won the World Cup 3 times, doing so in 1958, 1962 and again in 1970. In 2000, he was voted World Football Governing Body FIFA's Player of the Century. In recent years, however, he had experienced kidney and prostate issues. In September 2021, the Albert Einstein Hospital in Sao Paulo performed surgery on the Brazil legend to remove a colon tumour. Pelé rose to fame at the age of 17 when he helped Brazil clinch the 1958 World Cup in Sweden. His most famous World Cup victory, however, came in the third of his 3 victories. He was the focal point of an exciting attacking team that stormed to the trophy in 1970, scoring the opening goal in a 4-1 victory against Italy in the final. Pelé won the title of the greatest player in a BBC Sport poll conducted in 2020, beating Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Diego Maradona and Johan Cruyff. May he rest in peace. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again next time for more, and do remember, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.